everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am working on some treat boxes for Halloween. Keep in mind throughout the next videos that you see, any of them can be adapted to whatever you need. So I'm making them for Halloween, but you could use them for any occasion, any reason, any season, any gender, just by changing out the paper and the sentiments. So just keep that in mind as we go through. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So today we are going to make a sucker holder, and we're going to be using a 123 Punchboard from We Are Memory Keepers. I know that you can get these on Amazon or in some of your local big box stores. I think even locations like Simon Says Stamp sell them also. They're a very, here, let me even show you. I use this often if you need to make custom envelopes, but they also can make boxes or bows. You can make coin pouches with them, just a variety of different projects. They are super well thought out, very well made, last for a long time. And this is actually my second one. I kind of wore out the punch on the first one I had. So just a really great tool. I've had this one for quite some time. So we are going to be using this and a little bit of scrap paper and a stamp set that I don't believe is around anymore or available anymore, but you can use anything you've got in your stash. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I have some cardstock that I got from Amazon, but any kind of cardstock you have will work. Just get what you need for your particular reason you're giving it out. And it needs to measure 5.5 by 4. And then on the long side, so on the 5.5 inch side, we are going to score at 1 1/4. We're going to score at 2.5, 3 3/4, and at 5. Then we're going to rotate this clockwise. So your little 1/2 inch section is now going to be facing towards you. And we're going to score that again at 1 1/4, 2.5. This one you can flip. If you want to do it, so to speak, correctly, you should flip your cardstock over, but I'm not going to worry about that. This paper is fairly thin. It's not really going to make a huge difference. So at 2.5, at 3, and then again at 3.5. This middle score line that we made at 3 is technically going to fold the other way. So you should technically score it on the opposite side. But again, this paper is really thin. It's just a little bit heavier than like copy paper weight. And I would suggest using something of that weight. Otherwise your punch board is going to struggle to punch through it. You're not putting something super heavy in there. It's holding a single sucker. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And I would keep in mind keeping it fairly thin paper. And you're going to see why in a minute. So that's all of our scoring done. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to do some folding and burnishing. So that just means that I'm going to take this cardstock and I'm going to kind of sharpen up our score marks here. Let me get my bone folder. Sorry if my face gets in there. We're going to kind of sharpen up those score marks. Making sure I'm actually getting on my score mark. I think I'm a little off, but that's okay. I'm going to fold on the opposite direction on that one. And then I'm going to fold back the right direction on this one. Trying to keep it straight. Okay. And then this one, we're going to fold normal. This is actually going to be the bottom of our little boxes here. When I scored that, I used, so on normal styluses, there's usually one nib or one end that's a little bit thinner and then one that's a little bit fatter. When I am scoring paper that is fairly thin or not as heavyweight, I usually go with the fatter one. I feel like I get better results that way and I don't like rip through the cardstock. So just a little pro tip for you. So we're just going to go through and burnish all these score marks. I am trying to make sure that I'm even as I go across, as I burnish it down. This is not super heavyweight, so you don't have to burnish like super hard, but I am trying to make sure that things are kind of even. Okay, so that's all of our burnishing, folding and burnishing done. So let's bring in our punch board. So on a punch board, on at least mine anyway, what we're going to end up doing is lining up one of our score marks with kind of the center here. So we've got two little arms right here, or shoulders. We're going to put our score mark right in the middle of them. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you are going to punch on this outer edge, and I'm going to find that center score mark. You can probably see better here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 that are all about 1/2 inch apart. So on the second one, so from the left, or excuse me, from the right, we're going to go to that second one in the middle. We're going to fold that over, okay? And then I'm going to line up that score mark, and it goes all the way through, so it makes it kind of easy. I'm going to make sure that this is butted up against this little ledge right here. So my cardstock is butted against this ledge, and then that second score mark from the right is in the middle of these two shoulders right here. I hope you can see that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and apply some pressure and punch that down. And this is what you get. So when it opens up, it gets kind of that almost Moroccan, it looks kind of like a Moroccan mosaic tile kind of thing. So that was on the 1/2 inch one. So you're going to repeat that again. So now we're going to fold on the second one over from that. Once again, line up your center score mark in between those two shoulders there. I'm going to scoot that over just a touch. Punch again. The reason why you want the cardstock to be of a thinner weight is because it struggles, because you're going through 2 pieces of cardstock here. And I found when I did some other ones that my hammer mill cardstock wouldn't punch through. It would punch through on this last one because it was only 1 layer. But when I tried to punch through these double layers, it did not work. So I ended up having to kind of cut it out by hand. It doesn't look as neat, but we're going to tie a ribbon around this so it gets kind of hidden. So if you do end up using some heavier weight cardstock, or find out that your cardstock you're using is not punching cleanly all the way through, you can kind of freehand cut this out. It's going to be hidden with a ribbon, so it's not a huge deal. Again, one more time. Lining it up in the middle, making sure it's butted against the edge, and punch. And one more time. Line in the middle, punch. And then this very last one is just the single layer. And we're going to try to line up our score mark. There's a little guide right there that puts you right in the center for that last one. Okay? So when it's all punched, this is what it looks like. Okay? So we need to do some trimming to get this ready to assemble. So on our 1/2 inch side, I'm just going to nick just a little bit off this top part right here up to that score line. So here's our score line. I just nicked up a little off that edge right there. And then we need to remove, I'm going to work on this side of the paper because I can see a little bit better. We need to remove this rectangle right here. So I have cut at an angle on this middle rectangle here, and then from the bottom I'm just going to remove that whole little section. Okay, so I essentially have cut out the score mark. I don't know if you can see that very well or not, but I've essentially cut out the score mark. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut straight up each of these score marks, stopping at that horizontal one, just so I can release these tabs. These are going to be the bottom of our box, and we are going to have to glue those together. So I'm just cutting straight up those. Okay, so when this is all done, this is what it should look like. Okay, if you want to snag a screenshot of that, you absolutely can. So this is what it looks like. Okay, nicked a little bit off of this edge here, removed this rectangle while we wedged in here, and then we've cut straight up all of these score marks at the bottom to release those glue tabs. Okay, so now let's assemble. Very, very easy to do, does not require a lot of material. I would suggest, I like to use the liquid glue. I find for projects when I'm mass producing, this is much more economical. But if you have a tape runner or a double-sided tape that you trust and you want to use that, absolutely, by all means, go ahead. But I'm going to use liquid glue. I am going to be kind of conscious, again, because this paper is a little bit thinner, not to use a whole bunch of glue, and you won't really require a whole bunch of glue. So I'm just applying glue all over that 1/2 inch little flap, including toward the top. Then I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to try to line up my score marks. So I'm going to make sure that this score mark kind of matches with this score mark. And I'm going to press that together. And then I'm going to make sure that these tops line up. And press. So my top lines up here, and my score marks line up on either side here and on the bottom. So now we've got a seam right here. That is going to be the back. So I'm going to put that facing toward me, but on the right hand side. And then I'm going to fold in this side, and then I'm going to put in glue, just a little bit of glue on all 3 of these. I'm going to fold in this other side. I'm going to fold in the back, which is the one that's closest to me. Then I'm going to fold in the front. And then I'm going to try to use my fingers just to kind of square things off. I have a little bit overhanging over here, not the end of the world. Take some scissors and kind of trim that, give it a little bit of a haircut. And then what I'm going to do, just so that this sets up a little nicer, is I'm going to go ahead and put my sucker in there. Sorry, I bumped the screen there. This fits, I found this fits Blow Pops, and it also fits Tootsie Pops, like the full-size ones. I know there's minis out there. And I'm just going to use the sucker itself to kind of press that down and get that to adhere. So the next thing we're going to do is cover up all of these and kind of cinch this together. We're just going to use some ribbon for that. One of the things that I wanted to point out is you can decorate this however you like. Here's my seam. I'm going to put that toward away from me and off to the right. So this is going to become the front of my box. And I'm going to just put, I punched from my scraps some 1-inch circles. I use this 1-inch circle punch from Fiskars. Ooh. And I put a Dollar Tree foam square on the back. And I stamped this little boo greeting. I really don't have a whole lot of Halloween things. It's not really my favorite holiday. But this is from the stampsoflife.com. I don't know if they are still in business. I don't know if they still have this set. I've had this in my stash for quite some time. But this is called Spooky to Scare. It's right here. It's kind of information on it. And I just stamped that in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I'm going to remove the backer and just pop that kind of in the center here. Boop. And that's going to be my decoration. I'm keeping it really simple. These are probably going to go for our church, so kids are not going to really care. So I'm not going to spend too much terrible amount of time decorating. So let me go ahead and get a ribbon and show you just how easy this is to put together and finish off. I've cut off about an 8-inch piece of ribbon here. And you could tie a bow here if you wanted to, but I don't trust my bow tying skills, especially on camera. So I'm just going to tie like a little knot, and you're just going to cinch, put that in the middle, kind of cinch that down fairly tight. I'm going to do just a knot. So I'm going to tie that one more time. Give me a little knot. And then I will use my scissors to just kind of trim those edges just a little bit. And then that is it. So turns out really cute. They can untie the knot, or more than likely they will just rip it open. But that's like a really super cute kind of presentation, kind of those old school, I hear Europeans call them cracker boxes. I've never had those before, but that's kind of what it's reminiscent of. And that's it. Super simple to put together. It takes longer to explain it and demonstrate it than it does to actually get them put together. So that's the first one, and there should be a couple more videos with some more other Halloween treats that are easy to put together, and I hope you will stick around and check out the next couple. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye!